Hi everyone, Azriel Knight here, and welcome to part 7 of Darkroom Nights 2021, a mini-series where I use different enlargers and papers and chemicals, all to create a limited edition box set of my favorite photos of 2020. This episode marks the last part of the series, and I saved, I think, the best for last. The chemicals that I said hadn't come in finally came in, so I'm going to be able to use one of those today. I saved possibly one of my favorite photos, at least my top 3, for last. I'm going to be using my Bessler 23C, my favorite enlarger, for the last part. I did consider using one of the other enlargers, but to be honest, they were cheap Vivitar enlargers, and I didn't really want to use one of my best photos on them. But I do have an enlarging lens that I've never used before, so I'm looking forward to trying that out. It's definitely been an interesting mini-series of ups and downs, of trials and errors, and learning about things like drawing film-based paper and developing multiple prints at once. It's definitely been like a crash course. I think that even if I didn't make these videos, I'm glad I did this because I came so far in my technique. And, you know, there's something about doing a marathon that just compounds all that experience. I think it all sort of came to a head yesterday when the episode was so short because everything went so smoothly. And while you guys learn from my mistakes, I hope you guys also learn from my successes. But yeah, like I said, it's going to be a new enlarging lens today, a paper developer I've never used before, as well as a paper I've never used before. Should be a fun one. Let's get started. Of course, the enlarger you're going to be familiar with. It's my Bessler 23C Series 2, but let's take a look at today's paper developer. This is Photographer's Formulary Liquidol Paper Developer. It's listed as a superb developer that produces a full scale of rich blacks similar to Dectal, but with a higher capacity. Comes with full instructions right here. Let's take a look at those. The new paper developer from Bill Troop and Ron Mowry, Liquidol is a revolutionary new print developer that features exceptionally long shelf life, tray life, and high capacity, along with the convenience of a 1:9 liquid concentrate. So basically it's the same as Ilford Multigrade, 1 part formulary, 9 parts water. So it says here that for best results, use distilled water, which is fantastic because I already use distilled water. And it says for Ilford multigrade papers, a 1-minute developing time is recommended. It says for other enlarging papers, 1 to 2 minutes. It says here the working solution has a shelf life of at least 2 working sessions, up to 32 hours or 2 8-hour sessions, plus overnight keeping, when using 1 liter of working solution in an 8x10 tray. I'm really eager to use it. If there's one thing I've fallen in love with over the course of this mini-series, it's liquid paper developers. I love the pour and go attitude, and I love the small form factor. Okay, let's talk about today's paper. I'm going to be using Ilford IlfoSpeed Multigrade 2. It is a multigrade paper. Interesting. I actually didn't think it was a multigrade paper. I just read it as IlfoSpeed 2 and I totally omitted the multigrade. That's hilarious. But now that I see it. It says multigrade. Here it says multigrade there. It says multigrade there. It's listed as a medium weight glossy paper. And I actually, if you can't tell already, don't know too much about this paper. But if it's a multigrade, that's fantastic. That means that I can use my contrast filters with it. And the photo that I want to use, I kind of wanted a lower contrast anyway. So I'm happy about that. This is definitely an expired paper. As you can see from the back, it is sealed. While I'll still do a fog test, I don't know if it's 100% necessary, but I'll do it anyway, just to be certain. Here's today's enlarging lens. I've owned this for years, but never used it. At least I don't think I've ever used it. It's a ICO PSL 50mm f3.5. It's in really good condition, and I got it with the box. Hard to go wrong when things come with the box. And obviously this fits right onto my Bestler 23C. Okay, you've seen the paper developer, you've seen the paper, and you've seen the enlarger for today. Let's take a look at the negative. Looks like I was having some audio issues with this portion of the video. I'm still learning the camera that I bought and all of its little idiosyncrasies, but this is the negative I used for the day. It is from day 16, and as you can see here, it's the second last photo of the day. You can even see that the last shot, though taken within seconds, isn't nearly the same exposure. It's a completely different exposure, and that's because of the steam coming from the opposite building. Now, you've probably gathered that it's a church, but it doesn't really illustrate that it was actually shot in an alleyway. It kind of just looks like, you know, the side of the church when really it's the back. And that's what I love about it. It's got this really cool film noir look. You've got the street light illuminating the steam coming out of the opposite building. And I've said this 100 times before, but I could go back a dozen times and not get the same effect that I got that night. And I almost didn't shoot this photo. It was an afterthought. I was on my way back to the car, and I was with a buddy, and I was like, hey, we should go over there and take a photo of that. And we're like, and they were like, sure, why not? And we crossed the road and went over and took a couple snaps, and yeah, top 3, top 2 photos of the year. Okay, sad day, folks. It had to happen sometime. I did a fog test, and the Ilfo speed completely failed. Completely and utterly failed. This is a fog test from a sheet from the outside, so like the first or very last sheet. And this is taken from the middle. Possibly worse, actually, taken from the middle. Really strange. Super sad. By the way, something that I learned, Ilfo speed means RC. I was setting up for fiber-based paper, and as it turns out, this is RC paper. I was reading the instructions, and it said, don't wash for more than 2 minutes or the edges might curl. That's RC. And of course, if I hadn't read that and I had just felt this, I would have been able to tell right away. What a disappointment, but it had to happen sometime. I just didn't think it would happen with a pack of paper that hadn't even been opened yet. This stuff must be super old. If anybody knows how old Ilfo Speed Multigrade 2 is, I'd be curious to know. Let me know in the comments. My guess is the 80s or 90s, just because I don't see them making 3 and 4 like less than a decade apart. That's just a random guess. I don't know. Please let me know if you know. So now I'm left to choose another paper, and I've gone through just about all of them. I have varying ones, like different types of the same paper, like different contrast levels. But I pretty much gone through all my papers. This was what I was saving for last because I thought, what a neat expired old paper. I just didn't realize how expired. Sorry, I keep looking down to the ground because that's where I dropped it. But yeah, time to choose another paper now. I'm just going to go through them, have a peek, and I will let you know. You're not going to have to wait, though. It's basically the next shot. Okay, folks, I went through my papers, and I did find one paper that was an unknown paper. It was just wrapped in black, and all it had was this sequence of numbers, like 14557089 or something like that. And I went online to see if I could find anything that would lead me to what paper it is, and I got a hit. It's Ilford Multigrade 4 Deluxe Pearl. So whatever deluxe means, I don't know. Just like portfolio, it's a bit of a bump up from the regular stuff, I'm assuming. And that's what I'm going to go with. I haven't used it yet. It's already cut down to 5x7. There's a whole bunch of it. That's what I'm going to use today. Ilford Multigrade 4 Deluxe Pearl. Okay, so I did a test strip, 2-second intervals at contrast level 0, at f8, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I figured right about here is where I want to be. And so I did a 10-second exposure, and this is what I got. Now it looks super dark on there. Let's see if I can lighten that up a bit. It is a little bit lighter than it appears to be on camera, but it's still, you know what it is? The whites aren't white enough and the blacks aren't black enough. And I thought a contrast level 0 was a sure thing because that's what I did last time with this photo. And I forget that I'm using a different paper and a different developer. I'm also, you know, a marathon through this, and I'm a little bit maybe more discerning of exposure. Maybe I'm a bit more picky. Now, again, on camera, the blacks look pretty black and the whites look pretty white. But trust me when I say there is a bit mugginess in the black and some gray in the whites. I'd like to go up in contrast. I'd like those whites to be whiter. I want that fog to show through more, and I want those blacks in the darkness, in this dark area. I want it to be black. So I'm going to up the contrast. I don't know to what. I want to say just throw it up to a 5 and see what that looks like. But realistically, I'm probably going to go with a 2 or a 3. Okay, folks. I did several test strips at different contrasts, and here's what I've discovered. This is a contrast 3, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And what I found with contrast level 3 is that it was too contrasty. By the time I got to 6 seconds, it was pretty black, and more black than I wanted it to be in the areas that I wanted it to be in. So I went down to a 1.5. And again, I found that was too faded. Here's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And I just found that it was, again, too bland, not quite enough. So I went back up to 2.5. And I think this is it. Right here at 2, 4, 6 seconds, I'm getting the gray that I want in the church. I'm getting the white that I want in the steam, and I'm still getting detail all the way across. Now, again, on camera, the blacks look blacker and the whites look grayer, but you'll have to trust me on this, that there is still plenty of detail in there. So that's what I'm going to go with, 6 seconds at a 2.5 contrast filter. Well, folks, it's the next day. Everything's had time to dry, and it turned out fantastic. Here's the photo. The Ilford Multigrade 4 Deluxe Pearl was beautiful. Beautiful printing. just the right amount of sheen to the image, which is good because this shot doesn't really call for something super glossy. I'm really glad that I spent the extra time to figure out the exact contrast filter that I wanted with this. I couldn't have asked for a better ending to this mini-series. No long goodbyes here. I thought about doing a whole wrap-up part, but I think I need more time to finish off my box set. I ordered a box as a prototype to see if I liked it, and I liked the box. However, of course, in true fashion of Murphy's Law, I went to buy the rest, and they were out of stock. And when I went to the manufacturer's site, they weren't even listing the size that I needed. So it's back to the drawing board for what the box is going to look like. I do, however, have the labels all printed out and shipped to me. So whatever the box is, at least I know what the cover is going to look like. But yeah, I actually liked the RC Deluxe pearl so much that I just bought it in 11x14. I'm going to be doing some of my first 11x14 prints, and I think I'm actually going to start with this photo. This is an amazing photo, and I want to see it blown up on my wall. Thank you to everybody for your support. I realize this is a niche within a niche, so it isn't as successful as some of my other videos have been, but it was definitely necessary. I feel like, Clark Kent in the Fortress of Solitude, and I've just been bombarded with Kryptonian symbols for the last 10 days or whatever, and I'm super happy with the results. I got my RC cleaning under control. I got my fiber-based printing handled, at least for now. I think the next thing I want to do is get my drawing device cleaned up, that cloth on the top. It's really old and filthy. I'd like to be able to either figure out a way to wash it or replace it. So if you know that, let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's everything. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, maybe you'll join us over on Patreon. I recently just opened up a Discord server. So just starting at $1, you can join up to the Discord server and have a chat with us. I'm on there frequently, and it seems pretty active so far. I'd love to keep that conversation going. There are several sections, including analog help and gear trading and self-promotion. So be sure and check that out if you do sign up to my Patreon. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And until next time, stay classic.